Can I get my pen on? Dang, I can't get a pen. There you go. What is going on, you guys? I hope everything is going well. I'm so excited for you guys to be able to join me for the next episode of Making the Case for Your Lawyer Dreams. Of course, we know we're hitting July, where a lot of things is happening. We got a lot of people, of course, hearing decisions or starting the process of making their plan Bs. And I'm just excited. And so, as usual, my name is Anthony. I'm the founder of Becoming JD. We created this space to be a space for you guys to hear stories of inspiration from lawyers, judges, attorneys who look like you, doing what you want to do, so you can be able to realize, you know what? If King can do it, I can do it too. And this is the space for you guys also to be able to get information that you need to be able to take the next step in your journey. And I'm just really excited. We've been having an amazing list of guests. And of course, we have an amazing guest coming on today's show as well. And so I want you guys to let our room fill up. Let us know, of course, where you're viewing our session from. Of course, I'm holding it down over here in St. Louis, Missouri. Not my best place, but it's the place where God has me. So where it is that you're viewing our session from, let us know in the comments. And we're going to go ahead and get our amazing guests on to go ahead and start the process of asking some questions, getting some answers, and also, of course, getting inspired. And so I'm really excited. Let's go ahead and get her on. Let's see here. And I bet right when I start speaking, the screen is going to split. But until it does split, let us know where it is that you're viewing our session from. Of course, I'm holding it down over here in St. Louis, Missouri. And also, one of the things that I tell you guys is that no matter where you are in your journey, if in fact you have questions, I want you guys to know that this is a place where you can get those answers. So make sure and shoot your question in the chat box to try to figure out spaces to get answers that you need. I know a couple of my students were struggling with trying to get accommodations, had other students, of course, that were also struggling with trying to get letters of recommendation. And we helped a couple of students this week also secure potential mentorships and clerkships with judges, because you ain't got to wait, y'all, until you're in law school to clerk with judges. You can do that ish right now. Not right now, but right now. But nevertheless, let's see here where you guys are viewing our session from. Okay, so Afrika's not able to join yet, so I'm going to send her a list. Okay, she said I'm having some issues, so let's go ahead and try to see if we can get you to join again. But again, let us know where it is that you're viewing our session from. You guys, man, this has been an amazing week when it comes to Black judges. However, it has not been a hallmark week, right? What's going on, Cindy, holding it down in Miami? What's up, sis? We got people, America Samoa. Yeah, that's what's up. But I mean, Virginia in the house, that's what's up. I mean, you guys, it's been a complete clown show. What's going on in the Young Thug case? Am I right? I mean, we got 2 judges that have had to be replaced now. We got a 3rd judge, Judge Reese. I hope she's able to see the case through, but never, it has not been a good week for judges actually, this has not been a great month for judges in the state of Georgia. But nevertheless, of course, we hope that things can get better. We got Ohio in the house, Virginia in the house. What's going on? S2 smooth for you. It's too smooth for you. What's going on, fam? And so again, we're gonna try to get our guest on. Ohio in the house again. All right, let's see. Let's try to get her on one more time. Let's see here. Paris, what's going on, sis? All right, let's see what is going on. Here we go. AFRI. AFRIKA. There we go. Invite. Awesome. All right, so accept. Let's see if that works. We got Florida in the house. What's going on, Paris? And so one of the things I want you guys to be able to understand that on this journey, you guys, it's going to be a lot of uphill battles. A lot of this journey is not going to be easy, but I want you guys, and I hope you guys are able to understand from the stories that we've been bringing to you guys every Wednesday at 8, is that really some of the challenges are just a part of the growth process. And really some of the challenges are really put there to help you take the next step in your journey. And I hope that from so many of the stories that we've shared thus far, in this amazing 6 months where we come on every Wednesday at 8, I hope you guys have been able to see yourself in the stories that have been shared. I hope you guys have also been able to become motivated and realize that those challenges are really just stepping stones to help you take it to the next level. We've had judges come on, we've had lawyers come on, we've had attorneys come on. And so I want you guys to be able to understand the value of you guys being able to see people who look like you winning and navigating this space, so that way you can learn how to navigate this space as well. All right. And so we're having technical difficulties with Afrika, but we're going to keep on rolling, and I hope that we're able to get her on the show. She has an amazing story. Of course, I'm sure you guys are very aware. She went viral for when she passed the bar early. Sis hadn't even finished at Fordham Law yet, but she went ahead and passed the bar early. And so I really wanted to be able to get her story so you guys can learn from it and grow from it. But until we're able to get her on, what we want to go ahead and do, and I pray that we're going to get her on soon, because technology be technology, and we're going to make it work anyway, is that to be able to tell you guys the value and the importance of right now, wherever you are in this journey. I want you guys to understand, of course, a lot of attention and focus is often being paid to the LSAT or the JD Next, but I really want you guys to make sure that you're really leaning in. In Paris, of course, this past weekend, it's about the value of networking and building relationships. Because at the end of the day, it's about 4,000. It's about 100,000 people that are applying to law school. And so the value of networking starts now. And so I know a lot of people think, well, applications do not open until September. Well, that means you have until now to really start that process of being able to secure your letters of recommendations and also begin the process of building those meaningful networks. What's going on, Nancy? Let's see if we get her on now. Let's see here. All right. Let's pray it works. It's the importance and the value of networking and how important. Well, what's going on, sis? How we doing?
Hey, sorry, I had to create a new Instagram because I'm having some issues with my Instagram and lives, but it's okay. It's fine.
Hey, life be life, and then we find a way. Sis, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I'm really, really excited about this as an opportunity, because I remember when I saw your viral reel, man, it hit at my heart. I was tearing up, and I was like, man, that whole story. And I was like, I remember, because we had been going back and forth exchanging messages. And so I'm just really so happy to be able to have you here to be able to share your story. Because one of the things I said in the opening is that when we really think about life comes down to challenges, not to be able to deter you, but really to kind of grow you. And I think a lot of times, especially on this lawyer journey, man, it's like this. And sometimes it's just like this for a long time before you finally come up. God, where you at? Come on, what's up? But I really want to give you the floor to introduce yourself, because I really just want to dive in and really just try to inspire some people out there who I think, maybe on the cusp of giving up. And your story, of course, is something I think can motivate a lot of people. It definitely motivates me.
Thank you. So, hi, everybody. My name is Afrika. I'm from Harlem, born, raised, and stayed in Harlem, New York. I'm a non-traditional law student, so I worked for about 5 years before I graduated from Fordham University School of Law. So I just graduated May 2024, and I was a pro bono scholar. So my last semester of law school, instead of taking classes, I took the bar, and then I worked at an externship as a student attorney. So I was able to take the bar and graduate on time. So now I don't have to prep for the bar in the summer, and I was able to get some real legal experience during that time. So that's my, recent kind of updates for, just graduating law school. And then I'll be going into tax law in the fall at a corporate law firm.
Wow. All right. So we talking to a Harlemite here, right? And so we got so many New Yorkers on here. I love it. And so one of the things I oftentimes tell people, and I ask this interesting question, is it's going to sound corny, but when did you fall in love with law? When did you realize that, man, I love this ish, like for real?
Okay, it's giving brown sugar.
Yep, exactly.
When did I fall in love with the law? So this is interesting. I think that I've always had a crush on the law since a kid. I mean, growing up in Harlem in a single parent household, I saw the law every day. I mean, whether it was police, whether it was people getting locked up, family members in jail, or having to navigate the housing law system or civil
Yeah.
law, I'd always saw the law was always a part of my life, but on the other side. So I'd always had a crush on it. And I think I saw my mom. I always tell this story. The reason why I wanted to go to law school was I saw that I came home to an eviction notice and I was like 10, and my mom represented herself pro se and won against landlords in housing court, which is still very hard to do. I mean, I was just working as a housing attorney during my externship, but even back when my mom was doing it, that was just very difficult for a single mom who had never gone to law school to win. Like she knew about orders to show cause, she knew about discovery. And then not only did she win, she would help everybody else in the building and on the block. And suddenly, like, then everybody started coming to my mom. So I had a crush on the law, but then I fell in love with just seeing how my mom used it as a tool, seeing it being used to really give power back to the community and seeing my mom give back. That was like, oh, I didn't realize that, it wasn't, I never saw the law as this like selfless endeavor. I'd always saw the law as something that impacted the community. And then when I actually fell in love with it it was definitely law school because I knew I wanted to go for a long time, but again, I didn't know what it was. So just like you have a crush on somebody, but you don't really know them, so you get to know them, and I was like, oh my God, I actually do really love this. I really did enjoy law school. That isn't everybody's experience, but I did enjoy law school, and I loved the law. Like I genuinely loved learning the law. It was just so
Yeah.
intoxicating, but so fascinating to me to learn law. I was so intrigued by civil procedure. I was so intrigued by I was intrigued by it, not necessarily for the academic component, but because of the power.
Right.
And I was just like, oh my God. So this is how we haven't been able to navigate. Or on the other side, this is how folks have been able to stay in power. This is how they do it. So that was my moment for falling in love was definitely in law school because for me, when I think of love, it's not just about this intoxicating feeling. It's like
Wow, man,
this deep commitment. Love is about. I think Bell Hooks said it is like the commitment to the spiritual growth in another. So when I think of love, it's like this deep, like transformative thing. You have to see the good, bad, and the ugly. It's about forgiveness. It's about really seeing something for what it is. So that to me was like love. Like, okay, I see the law for what it is, and I still love this thing despite how crazy it
yeah.
is, how hard it is, how classist, racist, and unequal it can be. That to me was how I knew I loved it because I saw all of that, and I still wanted to leave the other side being a lawyer. It wasn't just a crush.
Oh wow, she said it wasn't just. Did she just end with some LL Cool J for real? For real? Hey, lover. But the thing is, and again, you guys who just joined us, we're online with Attorney Africa O's, who's doing the damn thing. We just did, of course, some brown sugar to you guys out there who don't know what that is, but that's definitely an ode to when you fell in love with law. And I think the thing that's beautiful is it's like, when it comes to the law, I think for so many of us, right, law was often sometimes it was feared. It was something that we had the OGs in our family be like, there they go again. They gonna
Hmm.
do this and then they gonna do that. And you used to hear your auntie, your uncle say it. You be like, oh, whatever. But then when you begin to realize that, hold on, I can use this law thing
Hmm.
and harness this power. And hold on, I'm seeing people do it. And my mama just did it.
Hmm.
So I think the thing that's amazing for you though, sis, it was like because you saw it at an early age with your mom, it made it normal. It wasn't like, because I think a lot of times for a lot of us, we put, man, that's what lawyers are, all the way up there on the pedestal. But you were actually seeing your mom kind of move and operate like an attorney for the community. And so it just kind of made it like a normalized it for you. And so one of the things, of course, that happens on our journey, to becoming lawyers and attorneys is we go through ups and downs, fam. I
Hmm.
swear, where's the easy button? Like I did a post, I was like, when we having these conversations with God, like, come on, man, like, is there a shortcut? So I want you to talk about some of the challenges that didn't break you, but grew you to help you navigate this space.
Absolutely. So I can do two things. I'll talk about prior to law school, my incarceration, and I'll talk about while in law school, the difficulties navigating that space. Just give me 1 second. I just want to grab my water really quickly, but I'll come right back. I just want to make
Oh,
sure I stay hydrated.
cool,
Give me
cool.
1 second.
No problem, sis. You guys, make sure you flood our chat box up with questions, because Africa's also said she wants to be able to answer questions. And I know there's a lot of people out there that may come from non-traditional situations, either one being single moms. I know I was a product of a single mom, wanting to know how to do it. Either two, you may have had some issues or run-ins that happened in your past, and you want to learn how to navigate it. And so make sure that you fill our chat box up with questions. You got a gem right here. Utilize this space to get the answers you need. Don't act scary, y'all. We friends, family, cousins, and kinfolks. And we're here to help you guys take the next step in your journey. Go ahead, sis. I'm sorry.
So much of my journey has just been met with ups and downs and setbacks. And I think one thing I always try to make clear to people is that resilience is a skill.
Yeah.
And in order to develop that skill, that means you had to have gone through some very hard ish. And that's how you develop that skill, because every time you go through something, you have to tap into your resilience as a skill to keep overcoming it and overcoming it. So when people hear my story and they're like, wow, you've overcome so much, they think like, I'm just resilient here and now today. And I'm like, well, yes, it's because I've continued to overcome, or I've continued to be faced with so many obstacles. And I think a lot of our people, we go through a lot and it can be discouraging. And I'm like, well, really, that's what gives us a strength in the legal space, because we have perspective, we have experience, and that gives us a humanness, it gives us human quality, but also just common sense problem solving skills that you'll be surprised. There are many attorneys that just don't have that, or it's something that doesn't come naturally to them. It's not learned. They have to learn that. And a lot of us have this inherent problem solving skill because we've had to be resilient.
Called
So,
survival,
um,
right? Survival mode.
exactly. And like you said, like many of us, we think of attorneys at the top, but because a lot of, I grew up in a single parent household, low income, a lot of my family members were administrative workers and I was an administrative worker. So we know that people think of the law as this blanket, like the judge and the lawyer, but there's a lot of administrative steps and people just don't know that. And I think that's like just, that's a tangent, but just something I think about for us. Like many of us, we've just had to fight, we've had to navigate systems, and it gives us a really good advantage in this space to approach when we have a problem to like tangibly solve it and figure out where to start. Um, but I think my journey to law school has always been wrought with just difficulties and life. So in addition to my upbringing, when I was 17, I was arrested, and in 2011, I was facing 25 years to life. So I grew up in the neighborhood. I was dating somebody, and they were caught up and I got caught up with them, and I was facing these conspiracy charges. So I spent 6 months on Rikers Island, and it was horrible. I was in the news. It was a very depressing and difficult time for me. And what got me through 100% was my community. And even in that moment, it was my mom that was such a pillar and a rock for me. She was like, look, she brought me my books, but she was like, listen, you could take a GED early in jail, so you could take your GED. And she also brought me my SAT books, because she was like, look, girl, you got nothing but time on your hands.
Yep.
So you could sit up here and be miserable, or you could take the GED exam, study for the SATs, and then by the time you come home, you could go ahead and like start college, if this works out. So, and then shout outs to my mom for doing that, because it gave me something to do. And people, the people got behind that. Even in the jail, the other girls that were locked up too was behind that. They would know I was studying for stuff, and some of the other girls were studying for their GED. But I got lucky where it worked out that I was able to complete high school. In fact, that was part of my conditional release, was I had to complete high school and go to college. So, I was able to do that. I graduated with Latin honors and then was awarded a Fulbright fellowship to South Africa. So, I was really excited. I was teaching. That was actually a moment too, because I wanted to figure out, I was going on the path to law school. I knew that I wanted to go, and I was doing this Fulbright, and I started studying for my LSATs in South Africa. I was self-studying, and I had the GPA, but I kept hearing about the LSAT. You have to conquer the LSAT. So I was studying, and then I was working with some of my young students. I was teaching high school, and they were protesting this very strict rule, and they asked me to be like their lawyer or their union rep in the process. And when I did that, I was like, okay, yes, this is what I want to do. I love this. I love like being a liaison and all of that. So I was studying for the LSAT. I'll say self-studying because wasn't as good as I thought it was. And I came back, I took the December LSAT, and I did not do well. I got the national average that Black law applicants get was a 148. And I was like, at the time, that was the national average. And I know that because I started digging deep into the stats and figured out like not only was that the national average, but they have a lot of data based on the first time you take the LSAT, how far up you can go in bands. And sometimes if you go too high, sometimes LSAT would investigate you.
Yep.
So, I mean, it's just like all this extra stuff. So I didn't do well. And I was like, oh my God. So that was the December exam. And applications at the time, it was like, if you don't get it in by January, it's going to be hard for you
Right.
to get in. So I had to make a decision. And I was like, you know what? I also need to work. And I don't really know what a lawyer does. So I decided to work. I worked at a mid-sized firm, and then I worked at the Center for Constitutional Rights for about 4 years. And while I did that, I also started studying again for the LSAT. But this time around, I did a in-person class, and that helped me so much. My score jumped up so much. It was awesome. Highly recommend. I think I did test masters, and I had a fee waiver, and I think that I just used that, and I applied for the fee waiver when I was unemployed, and it lasted, and like DM'd them and was just like, look, I need help, and if you just shoot your shot, people will help you. So I was just like, I can't afford the full thing, and they had scholarships, so I did test masters, took the LSAT again in maybe June, got a higher score, but again, the process didn't start. It wouldn't have started until that August anyway. So I'm still working. I'm still I'm a paralegal, figuring out the ropes. Um, and I think that I started to work on my application materials and I applied. So now this is 2018 going into 2019 when I was finishing up my applications. And I'm in a new relationship, but I found that I was pregnant at this time. So in 2019, I'm pregnant, but I am getting into a lot of really good law schools. I'm getting waitlisted at schools, but all around, like everything's, going really well. Oh my gosh, it's like raining crazy over here.
Yeah, I saw the lightning in the back.
um, but I'm still thinking, I can do this. I have supportive family. I'm gonna probably stay in New York or the tri-state area. And I'd gotten into some of my top choices anyway. And then I got in off the wait list from a school. And at that time, when you got off the wait list, you couldn't defer. And the problem is, I was having my son in October, and that was the middle of the semester. So I was like, I don't know what to do. And I wound up being like, you know what? I could just apply for another cycle. Like, it's okay. Law school's not going to go anywhere because I had to have my son, and timing just wasn't right. And it was a tough decision to make, but I'm so glad I made it because 3 weeks after I had my son, my mother died unexpectedly. She passed away. So, and then from there, I felt like my life, a series of unfortunate events. So my mother died, and I'm the oldest of four siblings. So I had to take in my three siblings who were younger at the time. I have my newborn son, and then me and my partner separated. So I became a single mom.
Yeah.
I'm taking care of my siblings. And then right shortly thereafter, COVID happened. So everything started to go on pause. So, I kind of halted the law school dream for a bit because I needed to work. I had my son, and I had a lot. I was grieving, and, I knew I wanted to go, but and I remember talking to a mentor, and he was there like, are you still going to go? And I was like, yeah, like, I'm definitely still going to go to law school. Like, it was still there, but when the pandemic happened, the whole world kind of just froze.
Stop.
And we just took advantage of it. Then I'm like, I don't want to be in virtual school. I don't want any of that. So, fast forward again, October of 2020, my grandmother dies a year after my mom passes. So now I'm the oldest matriarch in my family. So I have my younger brother, my sisters, my sisters they've moved, but my brother's with me. I have my son, he's a year now. And I'm talking to one of my mentors, and he's like, listen, a lot of people don't make it out what you've gone through. A lot of people haven't. So it's losing a parent is tough, losing a parent and a grandparent, having a kid. Everything you've gone through is just extremely traumatic. A lot of people don't make it out on the other side, and you're in an interesting spot because you can either accelerate or you can like completely backtrack. And I was like, oh my God. But he was just keeping it real with me. And he's like, I've just seen it happen to so many people, and you're in a unique position, and I believe in you, but I'm gauging where your head is at. And I was like, well, I'm still going to go to law school. Like, I still plan on doing that. For some reason, that conversation ignited me because I'm like, well, is he doubting me? Like, I can do this. But also, I was just thinking in 1 year, in 2 years, I had applied to law school, gotten into law school, had a son, lost my mom, lost my grandmother. And the only thing that changed was I still didn't have a law
Right.
degree. And I'm like, life is going to keep on lifing. Like, we figured out how to navigate in COVID. I figured out how to survive all these things. And it was just time. I just knew with my grandmother passing, with my mother passing, I had to go back. And I was worried that if I didn't go back at that moment, I would keep finding reasons or things would keep happening.
Yeah.
And I didn't want, because that's what happened with my mom. My mom always wanted to go to law school, but life kept lifing. Things kept happening. And I was like, I have to just take the leap. It's probably going to be difficult. I'm gonna have to leave my job. I'm gonna have to take out loans, but I'm living back home. I'm in a different. Things are different. Like COVID has now changed the way the world is operating, so I can do stuff remotely.
Yeah.
Classes are hybrid, so it was like even though it was all this loss, the world had transformed, and I saw that life for parents. It had not didn't necessarily get better, but there were the way technology changed the way could show up in the world. I was like, you know what? Let me take advantage of this now. So I was like, yeah, I'm gonna apply. I DM'd Spivey Consulting. The same thing I always would do. Everybody else, look, this is my story. Formerly incarcerated, just lost my mom, just lost my grandma, but I'm going to law school and I'm gonna need your help because I
Mm.
haven't. I need help. I need new letters of rec. I need new materials. Things have changed. And he was like, "We'll take you on as a pro bono client."
Mm.
And they worked with me, and I submitted. I wound up taking the LSAT one more time, even though I shouldn't have because my score was fine. But I decided, why not? Let me just take it one more time. I should not have done that, but it was okay. But I took it anyway, did my application, and of course, that year was the year where everybody's scores were super high. Like GPAs and LSATs were the highest they have ever been in LSAT history. Applications were the highest they had ever
Yeah.
been
Yeah.
ever. Like so, it was so competitive. Like it was a completely different beast. So I didn't have the same results, but I had a few of the same, but it wasn't nearly as it didn't come as easy. And I got into Fordham again, and I knew it was a sign because I had gotten into Fordham the first time. So I got into Fordham again, and I was like, yeah, like I'm gonna go to Fordham. And when I got in, some folks from my church that are lawyers were like, hey, we know these people that know these people. And I connected with a professor who connected me with this pipeline program called Real that basically helps like first gen um, black and brown lawyers navigate the first year of law school to help with success. And like that was big for me. And that's a big theme of my story is community and just making sure, like you said, when I was hopping on, I heard you say like networking, it starts now. And that was so true. I was so glad I took those people's offers to just like talk to because the black lawyer community is so small. We all know each other, but
Yeah.
in some way, we're all 1 degree of separation. So by taking them up on those offers to talk to people, those people took me under their wing and helped me get into these different programs. So the battle to law school, I mean, it was definitely an uphill one, but I just didn't quit. Like no matter what, my LSAT score sucked. I said, well, okay, let me
This
just
is.
try again. Like, worst thing is I gotta work, but I mean, at least I'll make some money. And I'm working at a firm. The firm was very supportive, so I was able to do practice exams and stuff. So, and I was, it helped my resume. But I could have quit at so many
Yeah.
different points, but I knew that I wanted this. I knew I wanted to go to law school, and it just the timing was right. And I was like, it doesn't matter what my stats and anything else says. Like, I'm going. I'm gonna go to
I
law
don't care.
school, and it's just
Say
gonna
that part
happen.
again. It don't matter about
It
my.
didn't
Can you
matter
say that again
what
for the
my
people
stats
out
were.
there?
It didn't matter what my stats were. It mattered how I felt. And I knew I could do the work and I knew I wanted it. And I do believe if you really want something and it will show. If you work for it, it will come to you. So, and maybe my stats weren't in the top 90th percentile, but I knew I was who I was in the top 90th percentile. My resume and maybe my stats weren't, but my written portions could be. Maybe that could be in the top percentile, right? So I just wanted it and I went for it. And in my mind, I'm like, I'd also been through worse. I'd have been through jail. I lost my mother. I done had a kid. So if I don't get in law school, that's not the worst thing that has happened to me. I'll be okay. We'll figure this out. Right. So,
I mean,
um,
sis, like literally, I'm like sitting here like, okay, in about 5 more years, we're gonna pull up Netflix and we're gonna see the Netflix documentary about your story. I'm just gonna put it out there because we already know what's gonna happen. But I think the thing is like one of the things you said it was so amazing. It was just like life is gonna be life, and I'm just gonna have to figure this out. And I think like for a lot of people out there, they're waiting for the perfect time. I gotta wait for my kids to get a certain age. I gotta wait for this situation. I gotta save up a certain amount of money. And it's just like almost to a degree we create barriers that prevent us from delaying us taking those next steps. And eventually, I think what's amazing is your mentor was just like, sis, we got to light that fire. You got to get going. Otherwise, you're going to be simmering. And before you know it, you're going to blink. And it's like, man, I wanted to be a lawyer one day. And the time will pass.
And that's exactly what it was. And I was like, I didn't, because I remember asking my mom once, like, Mom, why did you never go to law school? And she was like, I mean, I had you, I was single parent, it was hard. And she's like life just like was life and I was working and I just knew I had to do it and I had to go. And like I said, with COVID and seeing how things were hybrid, I was living back home, I had childcare. I was like, I'm gonna figure this out. I'm gonna make a way out of no way. And do it my way.
And that's the thing
um,
about you guys. It's like, I got to ask some questions because I got a couple folks who may have had some prison time, who may have served some prison time in their past, who are trying to go to law school. How did you go about navigating that? Like, for example, with your addendum, because, one thing I wish law schools would be more pronounced about is telling people who do not fit the cookie cutter 25th, 75th percentile what they need to do to get into this space. Because you and I both know, man, there's lawyers all over the place with all types of backgrounds and but a lot of people get discouraged. They don't know, okay, can I go? Can I apply? Or what do I need to say? So how did
so
you go
two
about
things. I think
curating this space?
first, you have to look at the laws by your state. So there are just some states that are just not as, I guess I'll just say felon friendly or incarceration friendly. So I know
Tennessee, my
Florida's
state.
Florida is like
Yeah.
that. So you need to first look at where you want to practice and where you want to be barred. That's gonna play a role. Now that and then two, one thing that I didn't know was that so many people, even if they have the top like 75th percentile stats, they get application consultants, and that is a very big world. Like the law school application consulting, I didn't really know about that. And once you, I mean, it's a lot, but my point in saying that is I think especially if you are a non-traditional, non-cookie cutter person and your stats are below, I definitely think you should try to find a consulting service. There's a bunch of affordable ones out there. Yep, there we go. There's so many, right? I think that you just can't navigate this alone. Every time I had applied to law school, I'd worked with somebody.
Yeah.
So and there's so many. I mean, that you can find, like you said, come in JD. You could look on Reddit. You could just look. There's so many, and especially if you have a fee waiver, folks will help you if you DM people and just tell them, "Look, this is my story. This is what I can afford." People want to help. They like that, right? But I think that especially if you're formerly incarcerated, I would recommend. I think you really don't have a choice but to work with a consultant because when you apply for character and fitness, they're going to pull your application. So you
Right.
need to make sure that your story is consistent. You just need to work with somebody who just can help you craft your narrative, but also can think about character and fitness. I also worked with a character and fitness attorney to
Mm.
help me with the addendum specifically. And I recommend that again because you're going to need to do that anyway for character and fitness for your state bars application. So, I think that those are the two things. Look at your state and look into the information about whether formerly incarcerated people can be barred. Like some states are very specific. Some have parameters about the type of charge. Some have some time restraints. So look into that. And then two, hire a consultant or talk to a character and fitness attorney. It's a thing. It's not hard to find them because lawyers always need. There's a thing for everything, but there's definitely character and fitness attorneys out there. And they help you with just making sure that you craft your narrative correctly, your words are clear, and that you're just mindful of what you're saying and how it can come off. Make sure you're not oversharing, make sure you're not undersharing. So that's what I think. And I think, shoot your shot. Like either people will want you or they won't. And I do think that there's a good amount of formerly incarcerated attorneys it's a growing community,
Yes.
but they law schools are not opposed to it because they like having that perspective. So it's not impossible. I think from what I understand, I think admissions folks are wondering, like, are you going to be able to pass the bar, like the character and fitness? And you have to demonstrate that type of confidence too. So I think, like, figuring out how to share your narrative, that will help you a lot. But there's so many. I mean, Dwayne Betts, he graduated from
Yeah.
Yale, from the
Yep.
incarcerated. I mean, I know so many other people too that I don't. There are some folks that maybe are not as famous, and I don't want to necessarily put their information out there, but they're also formerly incarcerated and they're doing very well. Um, so it's not impossible at all. You just have to figure out how to find the power in authoring and narrating your own story in this
And I,
space.
and I think the beautiful thing is, it's like, for example, when he graduated from Yale, and then we have a gentleman that just got admitted into the Northwestern Pipeline program, and then we got William and Mitchell, who are literally have a law program where we have people who are actually still incarcerated are going through their law school program.
Mm-hmm.
And so the thing about it, you guys, is the information is out there, and there used to be at times, just keep it a buck, where we used to be like, well, I don't know the right people. Well, now we got social media, fam. Everybody is a DM
Exactly.
away.
Yes,
Everybody is an
yes,
email
yes.
away. And I'm going to say something that may offend people. I've been, listen, fam, if we could go and do NCAA 2025, go about bundles, go about Jordans, then we can go ahead and shoot our shot about these lawyer dreams too. And
Yes.
I'll tell you guys this, it's like, if you reach out to people, the worst thing they're going to do is not say anything. And that may be because they didn't see the message. But what if they do respond? What if they
Right.
do say yes? What if they do engage? And so it's all about you guys learning about the value of community, which is something that's amazing, because literally that's what Afrika's talking about, that helped her elevate and take those steps. Because I think, you guys, I remember those days, Afrika, when we used to be sitting there on our hands and knees crying, asking God, why? Why can't I have it easy like that person? Why can't I have it easy why? And I realize now, because God was saying, because I got something greater planned for you. And
Exactly.
if I do not build the stamina, the strength, the resilience in you now, you're never going to be able to achieve it. And, we don't want to be one of his stronger soldiers, but sometimes that's what we have to be able to take the next step in our journey.
Absolutely. And I think that, another thing for formerly incarcerated individuals, sponsorship is so important. So one thing I used to do, I would email law school professors and talk with them, to that's just great sponsorship, because tenure faculty have a lot of power in the legal and academic space, not necessarily admission power, but they just have a lot of power once you're in law school. But they're also excellent mentors, and they just tend to be very, like, just very chill. And there's so many criminal law professors or other professors that are really passionate about helping formerly incarcerated folks. So there were many professors that, I mean, you can find their emails online, usually on the law school's website, but I would email them and just, hey, can we chat? I'm formerly incarcerated. Just, do you have any insight? By the way, Yale actually has a program for formerly incarcerated
Right?
individuals that want to be attorneys. I think Professor James Foreman is one of the faculty administrators, but he was somebody I emailed too. So I'd emailed a bunch of Black professors from various law schools, and they many of them responded.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, yeah, I think maybe a hand, like two or three didn't, but um, everyone responded and was very nice and was just very willing to, whether it was look over materials or just talk to me and just give me some assistance. And I think, like, it's just always helpful to have that network, because like I said, it's a very small group of people, so we're all going to know each other. Our professors are going to be our colleagues, basically.
And I want you guys out there to say, well, what if have not been incarcerated? Well, you better take this gem and apply it to you too. Because one thing, let's keep it a buck. I wish there was more Black and brown lawyers. I wish there were more Black and brown professors. I wish, but oftentimes, because there's not a lot, that means it's a strong sense of community. And so because there's a community that anybody has access to be able to tap into. Like Afrika said, these are going to be your colleagues. These are going to be the ways that you get clerkships, internships. These are the people that are not just going to be able to vouch for you while you're in school, but going to be people that you're going to potentially be reaching out to long after you graduate. And so understand the value of community now. I know at times on this journey, it make it feel like you're alone, but kind of, I'm going to say something now if you tell me if this is right. But if you feel like you're alone, I didn't realize it now, but that's kind of a choice, because you don't have to be alone. What do you think about that?
I I agree. I think it's less of a choice, it's more of a mindset. And I think that
Yeah,
that's a big thing I've learned on this journey, that is everything is all about perspective and it's all about
yeah,
mindset. Because one, when you go to law school, you're just using your brain in a very different way. Like
yeah.
your brain power increases, which means that your mindset, you're going to have to also change the way you use your brain to help you navigate your regular world, not just your professional one. And mindset is big because it's just a very demanding, very competitive, very stressful career. So I do think that folks, I mean, I felt alone many
Yeah.
times. I think a lot of it, sometimes we just feel ashamed or we think nobody's going to get us.
There we
And so
go.
we don't talk. But then when we talk to people, then there's so many other law students I would talk to, and we would start sharing. And I'm like, oh, you went through this too? And it helped me, and they would give me tips, and we would put each other on. So I definitely think it's a mindset thing. But I just think you're just not gonna get very far in this field if you don't try to establish a community. You don't have to be friends with everybody, but you are gonna have to find your people because it's just not many of us. It's just not, and in general, outside of just black and brown folk, lawyering is about network and community. It's
It
not
really
just us that's doing
is.
it. It's other folks. It's those that maybe their legacies, their generations, their whole family are lawyers. They have their own community too. So I think that's a misconception that we tend to think is like, oh, I got to do this by myself. And it's like, well, actually, no. Like that's like some of the most successful lawyers didn't do it by themselves. They had a lot of help.
Absolutely. And I think the thing that's kind of amazing about it is it's like, I think for a lot of people, when you even start this journey, I think the first time you do your LSAT and the first time for a lot of people, that's the first time they ever had to struggle. And it was the first time where you really had to start asking for help. Think about it. For most of your life, you kind of went through winging it, bad study habits, and just winging it. And then all of a sudden, boom, LSAT. Hold on. What? Hold up. I got to make changes. Hold up. I got to get a coach.
Yes.
And it's the first time when you're having to realize I got to make some changes if I want to get this dream. And then I think the thing that ends up happening is you have to start to lean into that in order to make those advances. Because, yeah, you can get the LSAT on your own, but it's a lot easier if you ask for help. And I think what it is us learning. I think ultimately, when I tell people, I said, your lawyer's journey, it ain't really got nothing to do with smarts. It's really got everything to do with you saying, what do I need to do to be successful?
Yep.
It ain't got nothing to do. I need to ask this person. I need to ask this person. I need to talk to this person. It's about learning the blueprint to your success. Everybody has their own playbook. And I think one of the things is the only way you get that playbook, of course, is building a community. And so one of the things that also I saw people in the chats, they wanted to ask some questions I don't be at. I feel like that's personal. We're not going to ask about LSAT scores, how much they increase, because, hey, they increase, and that's all we need to know. But one question I do want to know for you is they asked about how did you end up choosing Fordham? Because I'm sure you had multiple schools that you could have chose between. Because I think a lot of times people don't know about how to make those choices. So what to look for.
Um, I'd always really liked Fordham. I liked the community. I liked the commute. I liked the people. Um, and I mean, Fordham basically chose me. So the first time around, I did get into some other schools in New York, but the second time around, I did not have that same luck, but I did have it with Fordham. But Fordham was always, and when I don't want to put say too much on the live about other schools
Oh,
because I
so
am very
shut we
Fordham strong,
don't throw
but
no salt on those
right.
fools.
But Fordham was always like I ranked Fordham even above other top 10 or other Ivies because I just really liked. I mean, Fordham has a really great network, especially in the big law space, and it just is very well respected. And I'm being from New York. I'm also thinking about with my son, I needed to go to a place where it was easy for me to commute and able to, drop him off at the sitter and be able to come home and stuff. So that was really why I liked Fordham. And I mean, to me, it just seemed like a no-brainer. Like from the minute I got in and I was connected with professors and then connected to the pipeline program, I just enjoyed. I loved it. I mean, also Balsa, like I'd reached out to the Balsa president and he and I spoke before I even got to Fordham and he was helping me out with different stuff, different components of my application. So I just I like the community and I love the black folk that I'd met. Everybody was just very real and very honest. Like I didn't people were just keeping it real about law school being difficult,
Mhm.
why they chose Fordham. Some people were like, "Oh, like Fordham was my safety school." Some people were like, "Fordham gave me the most money." Like, and I appreciated the honesty about people's experience. I just felt like Fordham was just very human. People they have a night program as well, so let's say I needed to go switch my program, I could do that in case it got too rigorous and I couldn't manage my son in school. And because they have an evening program, they have a bunch of other non-traditional students, so Fordham just felt like a very mature school. It just felt like there were KJDs, but there were other folks who had worked, there were some parents,
Mhm.
there were second career people, and it just felt like you could have a real conversation with somebody, and then like it wasn't just all law school, law school, law school. It's also like,
Right.
yes, I have a life. Like I have like other things going on, and like I will be okay if I don't get this one thing, or like I'm not all about. I need to go to this type of Ivy and I came from this type of school. It was
Right.
really more like, well, this is the work that I put in. And that was just the vibe that I mostly got from Fordham. Even those that may have had more privilege, we're still just generally like also hard workers. Like I felt like almost many people, at least the people in my section, were just they were very hard
Mhm.
workers. And again, we're just like generally pretty nice. I'd heard rumors that at other schools they rip out books in the library. That just wasn't Fordham style. It was just like, you find your group of people, and you may not have people who send in all the outlines, but like people will send outlines, and it was just more collaborative and more
Yeah.
community based, and I appreciated that.
And what I hope you guys are able to get from that is at no point did Africa say anything about U.S. News rankings. She didn't say anything about tiers. All that information that she got is by going to the campus and really seeing if it was a space for her. I want you guys to understand the importance of being able to find a school that matches your vibe. Because even if you do get multiple acceptances, you're really about trying to find a school that's going to be a space for you to be able to thrive in. And that's not going to be based off of tiers. That's going to be based off of what type of comfort levels you get when you're there. And so take what she says as a blueprint. She says she hollered at the people in Boston. She says she went to the campus. She says she reached out to the professors. These are all things that you can actually be able to do. And I'll keep it a buck, y'all. This is probably the best time to do it right now because they already
Yeah.
finished their cycle.
Yeah.
The professors came back from their vacations.
Mhm.
They nice and fresh, tanned and
Yeah.
everything,
Yeah.
and they have free time because classes haven't begun. You can
Yeah.
go on
Yeah.
tours now because that cycle are pretty much wrapped up. And so
Mhm.
this is your summer to be able to start that process of being able to find if places are a good feel. And also, peep game. A lot of these law schools, if in fact they'll pay for you to come visit them. And so she told you that you got to find a place that matches your vibe and your energy. And these are the things that you have to do. And I encourage you guys to utilize this space because guess what? Somebody's taking this information. They can be like, okay, Africa told me to contact the professors, or Africa told me to do that, and they're going to do it. And so,
And I mean, the one thing too I want to add, I know it's hard to not think about rankings because they do exist. And like,
yeah,
I
yeah,
would be lying if I said, like, as somebody that's worked in a firm, I see the numbers
yeah.
and I see how many Fordham students versus students that go to top five law schools. I see it. Like, we all do, right? So I understand you can't just ignore rankings, but also just be intentional. I knew I was practicing in New York. So that being said, I knew that Fordham gets folks into
Mm-hmm.
firms in New York. There's always Fordham representation. So you think about that for wherever you decide to go to school. So if you're going to a school in a different state and it's not necessarily it's in a different tier, but it might be like the top three law school in your state, and they
State.
might, there are firms that have partnerships with that school. So I think like just being mindful and being very intentional, just knowing where you want to practice. I think if you go to a school in Chicago, but it maybe it's a lower ranked school on the US news, but it's top in Chicago,
Right.
you'll probably have a hard time finding a job in New York. But it'll probably be easier for you to find a job go to a firm in Chicago that maybe has an office in New York, and you can split your summer, right? And then that's how you can get to New York. So I think just being mindful, you can't change the cards you're dealt. So if you didn't get into like a school anyone if you get into Harvard, Yale, Stanford, you can go anywhere, right? Okay, but if you didn't get into those three schools, you can't change that. You just have to accept where you are and then be very intentional
Right.
moving forward about how you're gonna like make this into something, use this blueprint to make it what you want it to be. Law school is too expensive and too time consuming, too mentally taxing to just show up and go with the flow. And it's
Hold
too
on. Say
much
that
to be
again.
like
Can you say that one more time? What they can't do?
you can't go with the flow. You have to be intentional. You have to be intentional. You have to be. You may not have every little answer, but at the very least, know like, okay, I'll probably practice here for at least a year and think about this. And there's. I didn't think about clerking when I first came in, but now I am. So it's okay
Right.
for your mind to change in that way, but don't just go willy nilly and think like law school is just going to save me. It's just too expensive. It's
Yeah.
too expensive to not at least have some type of plan about how this is going to help you or what you want to get out of it. They're going to use you, right? They're using you for your tuition. You better use everything you can out of them. You better get all of your money's worth wherever you go.
What she said, what she said. Now, one question on here that I definitely want to make sure that we address is somebody asked, they said, well, what are pipeline programs? And so I want you to tell them about the pipeline program you did, and then I'll tell them about all these pipeline programs that are out there that I wish are publicized, but they're not. It's so many things out there that they don't know nothing about.
So well, first I'll say there are a bunch of firms that have pipeline programs too. So, definitely keep your ears to the ground about that. But Fordham has a program called REAL. I think it's Realizing Excellence and Access in the Law. I always forget what the A stands for. Maybe it's achievement in the law, but it's just if you type in REAL Fordham, it'll pop up, and it's actually modeled after a program from St. John's. So they took it from St. John's. So there are a couple of other schools that have similar pipeline programs, and it's typically geared towards first generation law students. Now with the DEI language, they don't explicitly say it's for Black and Brown folk,
Yeah.
but it's geared towards a diverse or non-traditional crowd. So take that as you will. And they're usually a small cohort, and it's designed to really help you do well in the first year because the first year is very, yeah, it's like the most important, but it's not the end all be all. But if you do really well in the first year, it just
Amazing.
makes life very easier for the next two, right? So that means that they can provide tutoring. So how mine was we came early before classes started, and we had like some mock classes. We met a bunch of professors. We got a lay of the school, and it just gave us a level of comfort and community. So on the first day of classes, we all knew a bunch of people. We knew what the classes were. Professors knew us. It just gave us this like confidence coming in, so that we didn't feel like, oh my God, it's the first day. Am I going to get cold called? And these books are heavy. We kind of already knew there was just something there, just this comfort. And I think that was amazing. And there are some other programs that actually give you a little bit more of a tangible skill set before you come in. Like they make you do some writing. I think they also changed it. So now I think they make you do like legal writing. I think they make you
Yeah.
take a class so you can like, really get some of that critical thinking early. So those are essentially what the pipeline programs do. Some of them provide stipends, mentorship. So I had like four mentors. I had a program mentor, faculty, student, and then a alumni mentor. So that was amazing to have that. We were invited to a bunch of networking events. It just gave a lot of access and a lot of leg up that maybe some of our other peers that are more fortunate have that we may not have.
And I looked it up while you were talking at me. The acronym stands for Realizing Excellence and Access in the Law. And just to piggyback, like literally, you guys, like underrepresentation is no secret, right? And it's an area, I don't know, with DEI now under attack, it's still an area where law schools and law firms are really trying to increase representation and diversity. And because of that, they create programs where you guys are able to get access to lawyers, scholarships, stipends, even internships, and a lot of this stuff is free. All you have to do is be able to apply. I know that I made a post for one of the pipeline programs directories for the American Bar Association. And they have all the programs alphabetized in every state in the United States. I even found some in Hawaii, sis. And I looked up some more information. I actually found out that not only does the American Bar Association have pipeline program directories, we also have the Access Lex has a pipeline directory for you guys, and I'll post that tomorrow. And also Lex Scholars has a pipeline directory. And so unfortunately, I wish a lot of this information would be made more prevalent for you guys. Unfortunately, the only thing we know about is how much we got. All we know about really, I feel like they tell us about the fees, they tell us about the LSAT, they tell us about the bar. They don't tell us about these programs. We have to go and find it. But nevertheless, it is out there, and I encourage you guys to utilize this space. Take the information from Africa, take the information from me, and be able to apply it and incorporate it into your journey. And so one of the things I always like to do, Africa, before we close, is right now, I know it's Wednesday. Wednesday's Bible study for a lot of us folks out there. Right now, it's people who are going through ups and downs on their journey. And it can be tough. We've all been there. Some of us are still there now. And I love for you guys to be able to end our show by giving an encouraging word. What would you have to say to somebody out there who's struggling? Either one with the bar, which is 2 weeks away, with the LSAT, maybe they got rejections. And on the cusp of giving up, I want to give you the floor, take the podium, and go ahead. Let's speak, sis.
So before I do that, I had a question earlier about like having a kid in my first semester. So I will say this. You were saying this earlier, like the LSAT is the first time a lot of us get that challenge. And that's good that happens, because the first year, that first semester, was when I also got humbled. Like, I'd been a straight A student, and my first semester, I'd gotten all B's, and I felt like I failed. I was like, oh my gosh. And it was hard. I had my son. It was very difficult. And I was also out of school for 5 years. I was just very rusty. And because of the program I was in, my mentors, I got in my feelings about it. And then I made this plan. I put it in my Google Docs. Like, I held myself accountable. Okay, what went wrong? What worked? Yep. And then I spoke to my mentors and was like, okay, these are my goals for this semester. Here's how I want you to hold me accountable. Can we meet this many times a week? Can we talk about this? Yes. And one of my mentors told me, she was like, I want you to look into disability services. And I saw you posted that on your story the other day. Like, and if it wasn't for her, I would have never done that. Right. So I think like it's so important to have mentorship, especially when you don't do as well or when you're in a low space, because you may think that it's just you're a failure, but maybe it's just your strategy. Maybe your strategy is just off. Maybe you're not allowing yourself to win because you don't know that you don't have those tools. You can't put together a bookshelf with a wrench. You need a hammer. So the whole time, the whole time you think something's wrong, you just have the wrong tools and you didn't know how to use it, right? So I just wanted to share that. Like, it wasn't, even when I got to law school, it was still, I was met with strife, but then my second semester, I had increased and my grades went up. Then I was a TA, like things worked out for me, but I did still have that low moment, and it wasn't easy and it was expensive. I had to take out an extra loan to cover my childcare costs. I had 2 babysitters and my younger brother was helping me. So, and it was hard. But again, there were just many blessings along the way. Like I said, living in Harlem, there's a lot of childcare around. Then my son got into 3K in New York and pre-K. So that was free. So that helped me. So, just know what resources, that's the perks of going to school in a major city. So there are just some things that I think worked out because of where I was and my location. Now, parting words of wisdom. So I have 2, and my first is this for those taking the bar or with LSAT stuff. I listened to a podcast, and this guy he was a cross country, he's a distance runner, and his coach told him, listen, at the point where you get tired is where everybody else gets tired in the race. And instead of you quitting, I want you to remember that everybody else gets tired here. So if all of your opponents are tired or whatever, that's when you accelerate. Remember that. So it's not just you. It's not just you that's feeling this tiredness. Everybody's running that race. And there are so many people that have gotten to the point that you've gotten to, and they did quit, and maybe they didn't push themselves. So that's when you push. So know that you're not alone in that feeling, and know that you can push yourself. You can do it. Just like when you have a hard workout in the gym and you want to quit, but you fight through it. And even though afterwards you're like all out of breath and you're shaking, you did it. And if you could do it once, then you can do it again. And that's all you need to know. If I could do this one thing, I could do it again. And even if you don't do it right the first time, my first LSAT score was horrible, but I knew if I did it once, I could do it again. And even after I took the bar, I was like, you know what? I don't know if I passed, but I know that I could do this again. Do I want to? Hell no. But I could if I had to, because I'd been through that race. I'd been through it, and I'm like, this is doable. It's very hard. It's very difficult. I don't want to do it again, but it is doable. And that's the importance of resilience. And that's how you know you can get past things. And nobody said just because you can get through it, it's gonna be it's easy. Nobody said it's an easy to walk. No, it might be just as hard, if not harder, the second time around. That doesn't mean you can't do it. You already did it one time.
Mm.
So, that's a big one. And then one I always say to folks, play the cards you dealt until you're the one dealing the cards. Like we can't control. So I'm a big spades player. I'm a big card player, and we can't control the cards that we're dealt. Like, and sometimes you're dealt great cards in one season, and the next season you're not. So you might have been dealt some great cards. You have a high GPA. You live in a really good city with a bunch of great law school options. But maybe you have a low LSAT score. Maybe you don't have any work experience. Maybe you have a something on your record, or you're estranged from your family. Those are your cards and you can't change them, so you
Right.
just have to play them accordingly. And you may have a bad hand this round, and you could throw the cards up and you could quit, but the next round you could go Boston, you could get every book. You could win the entire hand, and you won't know until you play that. And that's also how you become a better player, is when you have a really bad hand and you still play. That's how you increase your skill set. It's so easy to be the best when all the cards are great, when you have all the pieces, when all the moves are laid out in front of you. But a real competitor will tell you that they've only gotten great by playing, having very difficult hands, or being in very difficult situations, or having very hard opponents, right? So whenever you're in those moments, don't think of it as, wow, I'm just dealt these shitty hands. This is life. See it as, oh, this is the opportunity for me. This is the opportunity to show how much I can finesse. Yeah, I was giving these cards, but watch me still get my books. Watch me still win. Watch this. Because yes, it feels good when you're dealt a great set of cards and you win, but do you know how satisfactory and how amazing it feels when you've been dealt so much bullshit and then you still come out on top? Oh my God, that's such an awesome feeling. And you have to hold on to that. Um, so just play those cards that you're dealt. I think you could turn your pain into power. And yeah, I'm formerly incarcerated, and I'm a Black woman attorney. I'm a single mom, and so many people look at that like, well, there's no precedent. There's not a lot of people like you. Like, why are you still aiming for these dreams? Because there's not a lot of people like me. That makes me
Mm.
rare, and because I'm rare, you need me,
Mm.
and that's how you got to see it. You either see it like it's not enough for me, so I should quit, or there's not enough for me and I'm rare, so you need me. I'm a commodity. And it's
Mm.
with everything. That's how you have to change your mindset. And that's the card I was dealt. I'm a single parent, formerly incarcerated. It just is what it is. But that doesn't mean that those cards define me, or I can't still find the value in those things. And the other half about dealing the cards, I say that because it's a cute pun, but I think it's just like, play the cards you dealt, so you dealing the cards, in the sense that, one, a lot of people feel like when they're the one dealing, they get a better hand. So play the cards you dealt until you have like this, you're in a better place. But also I see it as giving back. So once you are in a position to deal the cards, give back. Go do mentorship programs. Talk to high school students. Talk to college students. Help somebody with their law school application, because we can only go so far. We can only grow so much without the help of others, right? Like when one person succeeds, we really all do. Like when we build this strong network, I've seen it. Like there are so many non-black attorneys that thrive because they just have such good networks. They help each other, and that's what we need. That's
Yeah.
how we excel. So I just encourage, and I think that's also how your blessings multiply. When
Yeah.
you give back to others, that's how you multiply. That helps you. You get a great tax break too if you really get into philanthropy. But it's just important to give back, because it's the right thing, but it's also just, it's good for the soul. It keeps you grounded, and it's exactly how your blessings will multiply. So those are my parting words of wisdom. We need, we need our people out here. We need y'all continuing to apply to law school. Um, don't let your setback hold you from your come up, right? Like You just gotta reach out to us, hit up people, DM folks, DM people on TikTok. There's so many of us want to see you, and there's so much content. When I was applying to law school, this content didn't exist. Instagram,
Right.
TikTok, YouTube. Oh my God, there's so much stuff, y'all. Please take advantage. Because we need y'all in this space. We need the perspectives, we need the faces, we need the diverse interests. It's needed. Even though DEI is under attack, at the end of the day, there are clients that will tell firms we're not working with you unless you have a certain
Right.
quota of diversity.
That's true.
So remember that there's way that people are leveraging diversity. It may not be as obvious as it used to be, but it's still there. And remember that, we're valuable and we are a commodity.
And I think that's the mic drop. Words of wisdom. You guys, make sure you follow her on Instagram. And also, like she said, reach out, not just to her, but reach out to other people who you see doing things that you want to do. Because guess what? They're examples of how they had the blueprint. So why try to go follow through it blind when you have someone who's already done it already? Sis, thank you so much for joining us. You guys continue to fight for your lawyer dreams. Thank you so much, Afrika. Peace and blessings, you guys. We'll talk to you guys again same time next Wednesday.
Bye.